Welcome to another edition of Cranky Gun Reviews. This is another installment in my series on why did I want this gun. The gun we're looking at today is the Ruger PC Carbine in 9mm Parabellum. Now there's a story behind this. I had originally bought a High Point 995 TS and took it out to the range several times, probably put 1,000 rounds through that gun, never really had a hiccup with it, but I just didn't like it. The way the recoil pad on the buttstock was, the way that you had to loosen up the front sight and cant it about 10 degrees to get it to line up with the rear one, or drift the rear sight all the way to the left to get it lined up. Just the chintzy way it was made, and really the overall fit and finish. I just didn't particularly like it. So I ended up selling that gun for about what I had into it, and I took the money from that and went out and bought a Kel Tec Sub 2000. Because why wouldn't you want a gun that folds in half, that also takes Glock 17 mags, shoots 9mm, and has a bunch of rail on it? But I quickly found out with the Sub 2000 that I wasn't very fond of it either. When you shot it, the buffer tube had to be jammed up under your cheekbone, and I always went home with a bruised cheek. Some of the components on it were a little bit cheesy, so I did what everybody should do. Went out and spent a whole bunch of money at M-Carbo. I bought a metal takedown lever, a new trigger assembly, a rubber pad to go on the buffer tube, and I still didn't like shooting it. So I took that gun to a gun shop and traded it in and came home with this gun. Now this Ruger PC Carbine is much nicer. You can see the graduated lines on the rear sight, which gives you some pretty precise adjustment to be able to get the rear sight where you want it. It has a nice fluted barrel. As you come down the barrel to the front sight, it actually has a really nice front sight with some wings on it to protect the front sight blade. It came with a threaded barrel, and I stuck a 30 caliber A2 style birdcage flash hider on it. Now this gun came with pretty good factory sights, but I wanted to make it a little bit more fun, so I stuck a Sig Sauer Romeo 5 red dot on top of this gun. Now these are made for AR-15s, so they have a pretty good size riser on it with a big open viewing window that allows you to fully use the factory sights on this PC Carbine. So when you want to use the red dot, you use the red dot. If the battery dies or you don't feel like using the red dot, you can just drop your cheek down a little bit further and use the factory sights on this gun. So very user-friendly in that aspect. The charging handle on this gun is reversible, so if you're lefty or righty, or you just prefer it on one side of the bolt, you can unscrew an Allen screw, flip it around to the other side of the bolt, and just simply screw it into the other side and make it a left side charging handle or right side charging handle. That's very handy. I still haven't figured out which side I like it better yet. It has a small section of Picatinny rail on the bottom of the front of the handguard, so I have a CCOP bipod on here. I wouldn't necessarily always use a bipod here, but it's handy. It has a front-mounted metal sling swivel and a plastic molded in the stock rear sling swivel. Has an adjustable length of pull where you can put in or take out some pads to make it shorter or longer. The magazine release is a nice push button that's on the left-hand side of the grip. There is a lever that you push in front of the trigger guard to lock the bolt back for takedown or for inspection of the chamber. This has a cross bolt safety just like most standard rifles. Overall, this gun is extremely well built. It's fun to shoot. It's excellent quality. It has great attention to detail when it was assembled, and I just really like this gun. So I'm going to show you how to take this down. Now again, if you don't have a bipod on here, it doesn't matter. But you want to make sure that the magazine well is empty, pull the bolt to the back, and again, you lock the bolt back with that button or that lever in front of the trigger guard. Then you go underneath the barrel and you pull the takedown lever forward and twist the barrel off the gun. Once it's off the gun, now it's in two pieces and it's very handy to transport either in a backpack or in a takedown bag. You'll notice on the end of the barrel here, there's actually 4 locking lugs that drop into the receiver when you twist the barrel in place, so it has a very positive lock. In addition to that, there's also a thumb wheel that you can adjust to the left or the right that will tighten up the action if your barrel feels sloppy when you lock it in place. And I believe what they tell you is try to drop the barrel back in the receiver, and if it feels sloppy, tighten it up a couple of clicks, and if it feels too tight to engage, loosen it up a couple clicks. That works out very well. This again uses Glock 17 mags, which works out well for me because I was able to reuse the magazines that I'd purchased from the Kel Tec Sub 2000. So there was no loss there, and even though I don't have a Glock 17 or a Glock 19, if I ever choose to buy one in the future, I will already have magazines for it. So here again is my Ruger PC Carbine in 9mm. This has been a fantastic gun. I've probably put about 500 rounds through it since I bought it, and every time I take it out it puts a smile on my face. It falls right in line with me having several guns that have the same caliber for rifle and pistol, and in this particular case the Ruger PC Carbine folds up very handily, so it's a great survival rifle, even though realistically 100 yards is probably as far as I would want to shoot this. So thanks again for watching another edition of Cranky Gun Reviews. On this edition of Why Did I Want This Gun, talking about the Ruger PC Carbine in 9mm. Make sure you support your 2A rights. Get out there and shoot whenever you can. God bless America. And you remember that if somebody asks you to give up some of your freedom for the greater good, please remind them that freedom is the greater good.